Is Jimmy Butler going to be dealt during the 2024-25 NBA season by the Miami Heat? Because the Suns Sentinel era Winderman hinted at the possibility that Jimmy Butler could be traded at the deadline if things don't go the Heat's way this season. I am Nic Rohloff. This is the Heat Report by Chat Sports. We've talked about a Jimmy trade in the past, but never really explored the possibility of him being dealt during this season. Before we get into that, though, make sure you're following me over on Twitter/X. Daily Heat coverage, news, memes, rumors. I have it all. My handle's at Nic_Rohloff. Get me to 1,300 followers. I'm 13 followers away from 1,300. If we get there from this video, I am going to do a shot on tomorrow's show. So help me out and get me to 1,300. All right, we'll start with Winderman, who said the Heat are positioned to play out Jimmy Butler's contract and still have ample time to then move ahead with the franchise's next generation. Now, it just comes down to a matter of the timing of such a transition, which could be by February's NBA trading deadline or by Jimmy Butler's opt-out decision and that late June deadline. It is a proposition that likely will remain fluid, with an extension seemingly not even a talking point on either side. And that really is the main story. That last part, that the fact that the two sides aren't talking, and this is very well known. Jimmy Butler made it known that he wanted a 2-year supermax extension worth $113 million, which just replaced the player option next year, added $3 million, and then tacked on one complete guaranteed season of $58 million in 26-27. Now, Pat Riley didn't want to commit to that because he hasn't liked what he's seen from Jimmy in terms of not playing in 65-plus games, not giving it his all in the regular season. He wants to see him stay healthy before he gives him that contract. The only issue by doing that is that Butler could risk going elsewhere, and he might take that as a spite from the front office and say, all right, I'll play this season out, I'll give you my all, but I ain't coming back next year. I'll go somewhere else in free agency. And that's why I have said this for a very, very long time. And really ever since the past couple months or so. This is the most important season of the Miami Heat's organization in the past 10 years, ever since the Big Three era broke up. When LeBron went back to Cleveland, this is the most important season in the organization's history because there is multiple avenues, multiple pathways to where this gets blown up or you commit to Jimmy Butler. Like, there is a legit way that Jimmy is no longer on this team at the end of this season or just to begin next year because he opted out and went somewhere else in NBA free agency. And I think there is a legit situation where the Winderman hinting of a trade at the deadline actually comes to fruition, because if the Heat stink it up in the Eastern Conference this year and are going to be the 8th seed for the third straight season, and their record's no good, but they're going to be the 8th seed because the rest of the conference sucks, which is the case, and they can't stay healthy, then, well, maybe we should explore a Jimmy Butler trade at the deadline. Which is why I need you to be honest with me. Would you trade Jimmy Butler at the trade deadline if the Heat are bad, or under any scenario? Let me know your thoughts on the matter. Type Y if you would, or type N if you're good. I would in a specific situation. If the Heat stink, yes, I've been very open to the idea of moving on from Jimmy if the Heat are not good this regular season, after it seems like he might opt out of his player option and go into free agency next year anyway. And when you think of the Eastern Conference, it's a tough, tough conference. I've said I believe if the Heat are able to stay healthy and reach their full potential, I think they could be the 4th or 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. But if that's not the case, let's be honest here, folks. The Celtics, Sixers, and Knicks are going to be your top 3 unless a major injury occurs. I think the Heat fully healthy can be better than the Pacers, better than the Magic, and better than the Cavs. It'll be interesting to see where them and Milwaukee stack up. I do think the Bucks got worse again after another year of aging between Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis. So we'll see if they ultimately bounce back. They still obviously have Damian Lillard, our sweet prince. But I do believe if Miami stays fully healthy, that they could be atop the Eastern Conference, at least of the teams behind the Big Three of New York, Philly, and Boston. But on the flip side, if the Heat are 500, they're looking like they're the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference again, and it's the trade deadline,
Why not explore a Jimmy Butler trade if there's legitimate interest around the NBA? If a team like Houston overachieves in the regular season and wants to try to make a push in the Western Conference, a team like Oklahoma City that might be missing a piece, like say Jalen Williams got hurt. If the opportunity is there that a team in the Western Conference wants to cash in their top assets to get Jimmy Butler to be the missing piece for their championship contending run, why wouldn't you take an offer and potentially move on from Jimmy if you are not performing well? Now, this is a big if because it's all dependent on if Miami actually is struggling in the East before the trade deadline and they're 500 in the 8th seed, because if they're obviously playing well, they're not going to even consider that. But if they're not playing well and it looks like the 8th seed for the third straight year, why not move off Jimmy before he potentially leaves you and cash in some assets to help build you for the future? More to come on the situation, but we are sponsored by PrizePicks, the number one daily fantasy sports app that I play on a daily basis, and I hope you join me because they are the best. It's the number one daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because unlike other apps, you just play against the numbers. And they got a really cool special for the real ones here on the Heat Report for the month of September. One Caleb Williams passing yard gets you one win on PrizePicks every week in September. You might have missed out this past weekend if you didn't know, but there's still 3 weeks of automatic W's as long as Caleb Williams gets 1 yard. Don't miss the deal on this PrizePicks offer because it's gone when September ends. And want to play PrizePicks along Drewski, Joe Budden, Emma Meechamp, Sean O'Malley? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in PrizePicks every week. Unfortunately, my name's not big enough to be up there, but my picks for the season of basketball are pretty good. I at least think so. I got more than 9.9 rebounds per game for Bam Adebayo, more than 6.8 assists for Jalen Brunson, and less than 10.2 points per game for Zachary Reese-Sachet. Get started with PrizePicks today. It is the best way to play daily fantasy sports. Download the app and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, back to the Jimmy Butler situation because honestly, you guys have heard this before, but I'm not in the business of losing good players for nothing. And if you lose Jimmy Butler in free agency, that would be a catastrophe because you're losing your top asset, well, second best asset behind Jimmy Butler or Bam Adebayo, for absolutely nothing. And in this day and age, you simply can't let these talented players leave you because it sets your franchise back quite a while. Now, I will say this, a sign and trade could still be on the table if they don't deal them at the trade deadline because there aren't that many top teams that have a lot of cap space next free agency, so they might need Miami's help to get a deal actually done, which would obviously net assets back for Miami, but it simply wouldn't be close to what you'd get in a standard trade at the NBA trade deadline because sign-in trades go down a little bit in terms of value. It basically just helps the team out, and you get something back in return rather than losing them for nothing. But if you trade them at the deadline, you're going to get a full Jimmy Butler package back. And I'll say this. I want Jimmy to retire a Miami Heat basketball player. I think he's the third best Heat player of all time behind Dwayne Wade, 1, and LeBron James, 2. But if you get the sense that he is going to leave in NBA free agency no matter what, and you are not having a season to where you think you could win the NBA title or make a deep postseason run, and you're sitting at close to 500 at the deadline, I'm not going to be here standing and holding an empty bag. I'm not going to. So I would be able to move on from him. And I did a little bit of the math here. There are 47 games before the NBA trade deadline that is scheduled on February 6th in 2025. In my opinion, Miami must be 26-21 in those 47 games to disregard a Jimmy Butler trade. If they are anything worse than that, so 25-22, 24-23, 23-24, if they are any of those three or worse, I am absolutely contemplating a Jimmy Butler trade at the deadline if other teams come calling for his services. You have to show us that this team is competitive, good, and can potentially go on a run in the East if you want us to be okay by potentially losing Jimmy for nothing. That's how I feel. You let me know, though. It's an important 47-game stretch to start the season. It's more than half the year, and they're going to have to play good basketball in the first half of the season for us to feel confident and feel good about the direction of this team. So I need you down below to predict the Miami Heat's record at the NBA trade deadline. 47 games. Let me hear your prediction. And make sure you are following me over on Twitter at Nic_Rohloff is my handle. Tweet about the Heat every day. Remember, I'm taking a shot next show if we get to 1,300 Twitter followers by the time this video goes out. So hopefully you guys like the content we put out. Follow me for more. And give me your score predictions, too, if you follow me. Not score predictions, record predictions if you follow me on Twitter.